Bitcoin jumped past the 16,000 mark on Thursday, and my guest today says it is not going to stop crushing the U.S. dollar, and governments can't do anything about it. Joining us today is Max Keiser, host of the Keiser Report and a leading expert on Bitcoin who advised buying at $3 back in 2011. How come I didn't meet you back then, Max?
First of all, viewers should know that your jacket, nails, and are all matching. Your lipstick.
I did it for
it's
you
all
today.
rose-colored gold. Rose gold. It's the perfect color for you, Daniela.
It's a subliminal message
Gorgeous.
for my viewers
You're the only beautiful thing in the gold space. Everything else in the gold space is dead or dying. Only Daniela has life and is vibrant and is keeping the space alive. Without you, gold would be at $400 an ounce.
Max, you are too kind. First of all, what's your primer on Bitcoin for people who have been living under a rock in a minute?
My 1 minute Bitcoin pitch. Well, you see, everyone knows that there was a white paper in 2008, the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper. And it says right there, digital cash. And this is really setting things off onto a path of confusion because you have to go back and look at Bitcoin in a different way to really understand what it's all about. Number one, Bitcoin is a messaging app. Number two, Bitcoin is a store of value. Number three, Bitcoin is a means of exchange or a medium of exchange. So that digital cash piece doesn't come in until the third stage. First is a messaging app. People ask, why is the price going up like skyrocketing, parabolic? It's because why did Facebook go up parabolically? Why do email applications go up parabolically? It's a messaging app. Economics is messaging. Currency is messaging.
But we haven't seen anything like these moves, though, Max.
In Bitcoin?
Yeah. How do you, anything comparable? How do you stomach this volatility? How do you deal with it?
I build incredible bonfires of fiat money in my living room, and I set them on fire, and I toast marshmallows on them.
The real deal?
Oh, what? No. Well, I think right now what's happening is that institutionally, and players in Chicago, New York, the CME, the SIBO, and others are now coming to the table. So here's what's happening now, in my opinion, is that you've got these guys in the futures business, the futures markets, the hedge funds. They want to get into this business in a bad way. But as you know, as I know, and I created the virtual specialist patent technology, 5950176 is the actual patent number. I know about market making, and I know how specialists work in the financial arena. And I know that what's going on now is that all these guys are building up their inventory. They need an inventory. They need a basis for Bitcoin that's relatively low going forward. They're going to ramp this all the way up to a much higher price before they launch these futures products. Then you're going to see volatility, but from a much higher level. And then the game gets even more interesting, and we can talk about that. But that's why you're seeing this past week and a half. Once the CME said green light to futures, these guys, the pros, it's a relatively peanut market compared to the bond futures, currency futures, stock futures. It's a minuscule. Right. But so they've got to inventory up. They've got to get massive inventory on hand so they can play the games they like to play. So they got to buy it.
So Max, make the counter argument to the number one argument against Bitcoin out there. It's a bubble. Don't touch it.
Again, go back to my three stages as I explained Bitcoin. Number one, it's a messaging app. Number two, it's a store of value. And number three, it's a medium of exchange. As a messaging app, you have to understand that it's exponentially growing like that hockey stick moment, that growth spurt that you see in the technology space. If this was just a pure technology, if it was Snapchat, and it was getting hundreds of millions of new users every quarter, people would not question that. They'd say, well, that's normal because it's a viral, exponentially growing technology. That's what this is, but apply it now to a store of value, medium of exchange.
So to say that you got in at a great time is the understatement of the century.
Yeah, probably.
So if someone comes, and I get people stopping me all the time now saying, what do I do? I want to get into Bitcoin. I feel like I'm missing out on what others are gaining. But like at these levels, how do you touch it?
Well, I think it's going a lot higher. So you're still talking about a 10-time gain, 10x gain from here in the next, in the medium term. It's still going to outperform stocks, bonds, gold. It's going to outperform everything. It's going to outperform Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett famously said, compared Bitcoin to rat poison. And you know what? He's right. And guess what? Warren is the rat. Jamie Dimon is the rat.
I was at a Wells Fargo event yesterday who said they absolutely advising clients not to touch Bitcoin with a 10-foot.
While they're stealing money out of people's accounts, Wells Fargo? Yeah. Oh, here's a bunch of checking accounts. I think I'll just steal money. Because, don't buy Bitcoin and have individual sovereignty.
Let's talk about the risk. People say market risk, security risk, and regulatory risk. How do you debunk these myths?
Well, regulatory risk is a non-starter because Bitcoin is the most regulated currency and security in the world. It's regulated by the protocol. The Bitcoin protocol is incredibly regulated. It's a beautifully game theory developed, equally balanced incentive system between buyers and miners and developers. And according to the hash 256 algorithm for proof of work stake in the cryptography area, and it just builds on top of that. And it's like, you have to, this is my comparison to gold, is that gold is element number, 97 on the periodic table. So it makes it uniquely beautiful and elegant to be a medium of exchange and a store of value because of its chemical properties on the periodic table. Well, you can apply the same logic to Bitcoin. When it came into existence, it had the beautiful, elegant, balanced, Cartesian almost beauty of having all these things in balance, working in a way that has never been done before. It will never be done again, and it's going to blow the roof off every bank in America.
Where's it headed for you?
Well, I think the first major stop will be at 100,000 per coin. That'll take it into the realm of being as a percentage of gold in terms of the valuation. It'll be up in the above the $1 trillion valuation. Gold's roughly $7 trillion in valuation total. I think we're going to get up there, start challenging gold in the valuation side.
So you wouldn't sell any right now?
No, I wouldn't. No.
Okay, let's compare it to gold because people love pitting these two together.
Yeah.
You, in a recent piece, said that Bitcoin is like Moses for gold.
Right.
How so?
Okay, thanks for bringing that up. This is right. I think the contention between the gold community and the Bitcoin community should not be there.
Right.
They are working. They should be working.
Like, can't we all just get along?
Well, initially the gold people hated Bitcoin. Then they've been coming over one by one. Roy Sabag over at Gold Money, a good friend of mine. He's coming over to finally the crypto space, Roy, and he's now got crypto offering on Gold Money. He said he's doing more crypto per day than gold. It's eclipsing this gold business. But here's what I mean by that. In other words, why has gold been in such a slump for so many years? Yeah. And there's a huge body of evidence to suggest that it's being held down by the forces that would love to keep fiat money in place and the dollar strong. They tend to attack gold and silver in the markets with a lot of short selling and a lot of naked short selling. And this has been fully documented. And they have been keeping the price down. And because gold is a threat to the dollar. Okay, so is the Bitcoin. However, there's nothing in place to do what they do to gold with Bitcoin. So my point is this, that if Bitcoin succeeds in killing Wall Street in a way, that whole machinery to keep the price of gold down will evaporate. And the price of gold will be free to rise. Patrick Byrne over at Overstock.com, who was a victim of naked short selling, who fought naked short selling for years. His vengeance, he's starting a platform called T0. So it's settlement date zero, which is going to totally kill all the back office bloated fee structures of Wall Street. And that is great for gold because you want to get rid of all the machinery that's keeping the price of gold down.
Where could you see gold headed if this were to happen?
I think gold, the chart on gold, if you look at it, it maps the growth of debt. And that relationship was severed about 7 years ago, where it suddenly, gold started going flat. It entered this bear market, but the debt kept growing at this 45-degree angle. So gold should at least be back to where it should be minus all this manipulation. So that would imply a gold price, I think, I haven't checked my numbers recently, but at least 4,000, 5,000, somewhere in that range.
You also brought Jim Rickards into the mix.
Yeah, Rickards is dead wrong.
In a tweet, he says the gold needs to get to 10,000 to clear global debt. You said, let's substitute that with Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, Rickards is the biggest nemesis in the Bitcoin and the gold bug in this space. And we keep it friendly in our debates. But underneath it, there's a lot of tension there because he realizes his whole worldview is being crushed and that Bitcoin is about to kill everything he believes in and holds sacred. He makes the point that the world debt level is in the multi-hundred trillion level, that the way to clear this debt, you go back to what's been done many times before. You go back to a gold standard. I remember the Bretton Woods Agreement, and they had to re-architect the global currency grid, and they brought the dollars backed by gold. And there's this historic relationship between gold and world trade. And he says that the way to clear this debt, essentially, you'd have to raise the price of gold, and you'd have to make things, again, reserve backed by gold, and that this would bring in the inflation that's needed to stop this horrible deflation that's going on. And that when you bring these two forces together, you're talking about a $10,000 per ounce price of gold, okay? It makes a lot of sense. Analytically, that would be great if we were living, in the 1930s or 40s or 50s. As Jim seems to be stuck in that period, he hasn't seemed to cross over into the 21st century yet.
Nice, please.
But so I'm saying, using that logic,
yes.
If you were to clear everything in Bitcoin, you come up with a multi-million-dollar price per Bitcoin. So there's two concepts I want to bring to your attention. One is called hyper-Bitcoinization. The other one's called the Bitcoin black hole. So the Bitcoin black hole is that the Bitcoin is sucking in all these horrible fiat money, stocks, bonds, securities. It's drawing cash out of all of these
right.
fiat-based. And in fact, the U.S. dollar is in a hyperinflationary collapse against Bitcoin as we speak. Rickard said that we're going to see how Bitcoin performs in a crisis. He made that statement.
Yeah.
And the crisis is right now, and it's performing today brilliantly. The crisis is that the fiat money is collapsing. That's the crisis, Jim. We're in the crisis that you predicted. It's happening right now.
So for you, Bitcoin has replaced gold as
what's that trumpet I hear? There's trumpet playing. It's like the trumpets of Gabriel. I mean, is this Cyber Christ?
Am
I being called away to the heavens?
New York City construction accent. I apologize for it. But so is Bitcoin replaced gold as a safe haven for you?
Bitcoin is equal to gold as a safe haven without any question. And you can make the argument that it is superior to gold. It fulfills the four major characteristics of gold that both Isaac Newton and Aristotle believed were key for a reserve currency. It has scarcity, fungibility, portability, and desirability. It has all of those things. And not only that, but it also has something added, which is that it's transforming the very nature of economics itself by bringing into what's going on here? It's like a Ouija board. Oh, my God. Where's
Max,
Bitcoin
please
going?
focus.
It's going higher. It's going higher.
Max Keiser.
What?
It was so much fun.
We got to cut it off there?
But I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. My pleasure. Hope you do it again soon.
Yes, and thank you for watching. We'll have more for you, so be sure to stay tuned to Kitco.com.